You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. In this episode, we are investing in Reginald Ryder, the Thriving Life Coach, who has helped middle school, high schools, and even college students acquire the academic readiness and life skills to master their academic journey. I can tell you I wish I had someone like Reginald in my life when I was a student. So without further ado, let's listen to the conversation that we had.
Reginald, do you want to just tell me a bit about yourself? 30-second elevator pitch.
Sure, no problem. So I'm Reginald Ryder. I'm the founder of Thriving Life Coaching, LLC. It is a coaching business designed to help students get ready for their academic venture, whether that's middle school, high school, or college. In the context of that coaching, I ended up writing a book called Passing the Baton, Guide Memoir of College Success. And the book itself kind of came from my 25, 30 years experience in higher education and K through 12, working with students, getting them from point A to point B. And, so this has kind of culminated into lots of different things and lots of different channels that I'm able to influence, how students and families, parents as well, meander this process called college and life and getting ready for, the adult world, the next step. Exactly.
I can tell you, I wish I had that when I was entering Seaton College.
I can tell you, you don't realize what you don't have until you don't have it. And then, I fortunately was able to kind of find a market for this. And so it's been pretty good so far, but I agree with you, definitely. I would have done things a little differently.
Oh yeah, full on. Like I went into university without any plan because, I was only one of the main reasons I'm doing this podcast is to show my generation and future generations that there's thousands of possibilities out there. Because I grew up with what my dad was doing, which was he was an investment advisor.
Okay.
Like wealth management and stuff like that. So that's all I knew. I only knew about that world, the banking world. So it was like, that's where I'm going. Like I never knew any actors. I never knew any actresses or film producer or anything like that. And because I didn't have the internet, I couldn't find those, right? And now I'm like, there were so many.
I know, there's like a plethora out there. I mean, my dad was in the Air Force, so although that wasn't that was my desire to a certain extent, it didn't happen for me in that way, in that manner. And so as a first generation kid, I was like, okay, well, this is my chance to kind of, figure out what I want to do. And so, with trial and error and triumph and trial, I got there. So here I sit.
Well, that's great. What's also really cool is through your journey, I'm guessing you haven't always been an entrepreneur your whole life.
No, not at all. It's funny because actually part of what stopped me from doing this from the very, maybe, 10 or 15 years ago was that I didn't feel like I quote unquote had the business acumen. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't go to business school. I didn't take accounting. I didn't, all the didn't you could put in front of it.
Yeah.
I could have very easily answered and put in lots of different answers for it, but at one point I finally just said, you know what, the worst that's going to happen is that it will fail. And if it fails, then I'll just find a way to make it work. And ultimately, it's kind of taken off in its own way without me really doing anything now. So I'm happy about that. But at the same time, like I know there's still, a lot of work to be put in, a lot of hustle kind of behind the scenes to make it happen. But, if it works right, we make it look easy, so to speak, hopefully.
Yeah, trust me, as a podcaster, everybody's like, oh, I can be a podcaster. It's easy. I'm like, no, you may, this part, talking and podcasting, that part is. Everything behind it is like, you don't understand how much work it is.
Exactly.
You have to make sure your levels are right. Okay, is the equipment right? Is my guest coming through properly? And thankfully, there's been a lot of guests who are used to the podcasting world, so they have the proper equipment or know exactly what to do. So that's great as well. But yeah, it's a lot more work being an entrepreneur or something if you don't have if you're doing it by yourself. Like,
right.
There's no one probably put out a roadmap for you to teach kids how to go from, and parents pretty much how to go from college to university or high school or secondary to university. So you're just like, I'm going to blaze the path. Let's go. I may not get right, but we're going to get somewhere.
Exactly. So that's, it's funny you say it because I kind of knew in some respects this could be a business, but being able to kind of wrap my arms around it, I didn't really know how to do that part of it. And so I'd get started and then I'd stop. I'd get the momentum and think, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then it was like, it got hard or it got something that I didn't necessarily prepared for. And it was like, let me pause for a moment. But that pause then becomes stopping. So I was like, when I finally got past that, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it and we're just going to make it happen. So trust me, I follow exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's great because I'm learning. I grew up in a world of perfection. You have to be perfect. Make sure when you do this, it's perfect. And the more I'm meeting entrepreneurs and people who are far superior, like I had a guest who he literally started his career as helping starving artists sell their artwork. And now he's the CEO and founder of a huge startup incubator in France. And he was like, and when he was doing it, it was back in the old days where you had to type, like you literally had to code the website. There was no drag and drop. Like he's the OG of digital marketers, right?
Right.
So he was saying like, it was ugly when we first started. Like, remember like early 90s web pages with the flashing lights and that.
Yeah.
So he's like, just put it up and then work on it. As long as you're up, you're good to go. And I've been realizing that a lot more. Just get it up. Imperfection is perfection in the long run.
Yes, it is. It is.
And I love I'm finally like embracing like, okay, I'm flawed, but I can do it. And I can, as long as I'm better than I was yesterday, that's perfection right there,
Exactly.
So
sounds like you read the book already.
I wish I did. This is me going through the hard knock school, of like talking with people in this. I'm going to pick up your book because
thank you.
If it can stop me from learning some hard knocks, my butt's a little sore from landing on it too many times.
Yeah, you and me both. I've been told what makes you laugh can make you cry. So hopefully, we can figure a few things out along the way.
Yeah. So. Were you always a teacher?
So no. So I became a teacher later on in my life. I really was just working in higher education. From my undergrad days, I was an RA, so I kind of knew a lot about the university and institution that I went to school. I went to Ball State University in Indiana, and I went on a volunteer trip for a yield for admissions to see if I could, get students who be interested in the school to see if they, end up coming once they've been admitted. So myself and several of my friends, but a lot of people went on these trips to go visit students and that type of thing. So we, said, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, go meet students, you can sit at a table, you can walk around and just kind of ask them questions, talk to parents, the whole nine, drink punch, go from there. So I thought, okay, that shouldn't be too hard. And I knew a lot about the university, so I was able to kind of speak about my own experience as well as, the experience itself. And, like what what I was doing, and didn't really realize it was a job. Just thought I was kind of volunteering at that particular point. And a couple people kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing something like this?" And I had actually, ironically enough, been asked about this line of work about 8 months before, but at the time, my tunnel vision was like, no, I don't want to be a blank. I want to be, more than that. So, no, of course, absolutely not. So, silly me.
Trust me, I think everybody, when they start looking back and they're like, how did I miss that?
Yeah, how did I miss it? So, Phil, I ended up doing that and then going back and doing another round of this. I did two or three chips, I think is what I ended up doing. And so in the process of doing it, someone really tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, listen, I really want to talk with you about this. This is a great opportunity. I think you'd be good at it. See what happens." And so put my name in the hat, and lo and behold, I got it. Matter of fact, I got the job before I actually graduated. So it was actually for me kind of a +2, not just graduating, but then be having a job too, all at the same time. So I did that for a few years at Butler University and Ball State University. Got a little bit more involved in the admissions part, but I was bringing students in, but I really wasn't helping them get through the process. And so there'd be students that I'd bring in that they'd say, "Hey, I can't wait to see you when you get here." By the time I got ready to get started, or they were starting school, I was getting ready to go out on the road and, then talk to students and the whole nine. So I get back at Thanksgiving or Christmas and like, "Hey, where you been? What's going on? What's happening?" So they were telling me about what they were doing. And I was kind of giving them my own tips about what or how to go about it, as well as helping students through the admissions process and telling them kind of, once you're here, this is what the experience is going to be like for you as a student. So kind of all those things kind of jumbled together. But what ended up happening was that I ended up knowing or not being able to help the students once I got them in. So I wanted a job that was really going to allow me the ability to be able to do that. And so I went then from admissions to more student services. And so student services is kind of where I've been since then. I worked at a small school in Pennsylvania called Allegheny College for a few years, and then went back to school and got my master's at James Madison University in Virginia. And then from there worked at Cornell University, and then did a little dovetail for about 8 or 10 years, I should say, in K through 12. I now work with an ed tech company, and we partner with the University of Southern California School of Education. So I help students get through their doctorate program in the very same way that I do otherwise. So all these things have kind of like come together in up from a big funnel to now kind of a smaller, pipe.
Dedicated pipe.
More dedicated pipe, exactly. And so now I coach doctorate level students who are, leaders and CEOs and all those types of things in their work. Get through the program that I'm a part of. I also do some teaching at a community college as well. And I teach students, college student success. So again, kind of right in my lane. So with all this kind of interest and passions and everything else, I was like, okay, well, what can I do for myself? Finally, the question came. And so I thought about, doing a coaching business, and lo and behold, my wife and I were just out shopping. We ended up talking to a high school senior who was waiting on my wife at the time. Told a little bit about what I did, and someone overheard me talking to her about it and said, well, I have a sophomore daughter in high school that needs coaching. Are you open? Are you available? So we talk about that, being ready or being ready and or not being ready. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, let's go. So about a few weeks later, after that, I started, the business itself. She was one of my, kind of first test pilots, so to speak. And she was successful. She, did a lot better. She was more engaged, more involved, and was really able to advocate for herself. So I was like, okay, clearly this works. I know that now. So, it worked for me, but it works for somebody else now.
Yeah.
And so one of my friends had asked me, what are you going to do after, the summer? Because the summer, there's nothing going on with classes or school or anything. And I said, well, not really sure. I said, I'll probably do some things to kind of build some curriculum into the process or whatever. So why don't you write a book?
Ooh.
And I kind of had the idea to write a book, several years ago, but I thought, I've never written anything before. Yeah, I'm a pretty decent writer. I think I can articulate my ideas, but
writing someone else does
somebody
writing.
Else,
I don't do that.
Else.
Yeah.
Right. I don't do Windows, the whole nine. And, lo and behold, I kind of thought about it a little bit. And so it kind of sparked a little bit. And then I talked to one more of my friends who had actually written a book and who was looking to do some other things, mentioned the very same conversation. She was like, what took you so long? So I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, let's just go with this. So on a plane ride back from a convention that I went to, I wrote an outline for a book, June 2019, and started writing. And I went on vacation probably like 2 or 3 weeks later and kind of did a deep dive and got started. One of my colleagues at work, who's actually written a book recently, but said that, she would read it for me to kind of give me a sense of whether or not she felt like I was hitting the points or not, or, a little editing in that regard.
A proofreading, see if there's any some fat to trim off, like,
Exactly.
This is great, but maybe reword it this way. And then before you give it to the editor,
Right.
Yeah.
So she looked at it and she was a former student athlete in college. And so she read the book kind of in that lens, and she was like, wow, where you been all my life? I wish I'd had this when I was, when I was in school doing this and trying to make it work. And so I continued to write, and she continued to look, and I had some other writing coaches and friends and colleagues and family and my wife, look at it as well. And by the time I got to December, probably I'd written probably 3/4 of it. I think I finished the last bit of it by February. So it was
really
quick
fast.
Book. It was in passion writing, just kind of going at it. So COVID hits, and I thought there's like a big pause at that point, 2020, March 2020, around then anyway. By then I'd had it edited, but I hadn't done the business part of it. So I went through and did the business part of it from there till about probably April or May or so. Finally got my book cover back and everything else. And, I put it on Amazon. I was getting ready to do it. And I was put it on my website as well. But when I did it with Amazon, they said, so, what do I need to do now to kind of make this happen? She said, all you got to do now is just press this button and it goes live. And it was such a surreal experience because it seemed like for all the steps and all the processes that happened, it didn't seem right. It didn't seem real. It didn't seem like it was, really me
I just
doing
have to
this,
press a button, right? That's
gotta press a button.
Something's wrong here. It took me a whole year to get up to this point, and all I have to do is press a button now. No.
Exactly. So almost to a calendar year from when I started writing. I think the end of June was when I finished and pressed start, and the book got out there. So I advertised it on Instagram and a few other places, and people were buying it. And I thought, okay, this is a good start. I didn't really think much about it from there. It's like, well, I'll just do what I can to kind of hawk it and put it out there for people to get. So I looked at my page because I was following the hopefully the altitude, yes, of what was looking. And so to the right side of the book on Amazon, within the first couple of weeks, I kept seeing this like yellow ribbon to the side of it. And I thought, wow, what's that? I didn't know what it was. I thought, it was like new, brand new release, something like that. Well, I wondered what it was. It said #1. And I said, #1? And I was like, what do you mean #1? So I looked in it for the release for the book for the on Amazon. Within the first 2 weeks of being released, it was a bestseller for adult and continuing education and for study skills. So I knew at that point I had hit,
pay dirt.
I hit it at that point. So I was, so I really kind of, used that momentum and what ended up spawning then was not just the book, but then it was kind of consulting. And so I've been doing some consulting outside of that and in conjunction with coaching as well. So it's all kind of, fits within a nice honeycomb now. But, if you told me this before, how all these things, would have come together in the way that they did, I'd have thought maybe the guy next door, maybe the guy, my friend of a friend of a friend, but not me. And so, I'm kind of living in that right now. So this, time and opportunity with you and other podcasters that I've come across in the past past 60 days or so has been good because it's given me a chance to talk about the book, talk about, kind of entrepreneurial ship in one respect or another, but really, a chance to offer another way of being able to offer, I think a point of influence in people's lives.
No, it's what's really been amazing this season. I think I've had more authors on the podcast. And for me, an author used to be like, either Stephen King.
Yes.
That's an author. And then I look over here and I'm like, okay, yeah, but you have the biographers. Those are authors, but are they really authors?
Right.
And then it's like, I'm talking like with yourself, you wrote a book. We just had for the second season, a guy who's the book boss, who's helping medical professionals get their story out there. And so he's helping. His goal is to help, I think, 1,000 at this year, and he's already at 50.
Oh, wow.
So it's amazing, like seeing that and how he created a business around helping the business owners publish their books. And then I had the doctor of customer service on, who helps business owners take their, like, just put a 5% increase in the customer service, gives them like nearly a 95% increase in revenue. And he's written a book about it. And like, I'm like, okay, so I guess I'm writing a book now. Since
Yes.
I'm talking to so many people and I have all these great people that I'm like, hey, like you writing the book, it took you a year, but you finally you kicked down the door after the start and stops, and you went through it. And because you got that thing, you got those two people who said, you should write a book. Now I'm like, I'm going to write a book because I've had
Everybody has a story in them. That's what I've come to learn.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
And it's just getting that start going down. And I've been journaling because I want to write a book. So I've been journaling every day just to get in the habit of, 10 minutes writing a day. Doesn't have to be important. As long as I'm getting in that, you're building that tool, you're building the muscle, you're sharpening it. So that's something I learned as well. Like you, if you want to be good, you have to keep going at it. You have to fight it every single day.
Exactly.
But it's interesting that you first went like, okay, I'll help this. Talking to this one high school student led to your first actual client, which then led to you writing a book, then led to you consulting because your book became #1, which I'm not surprised because just when we started, you're telling me this is the book you need to help you go transition from high school to university. I'm like, every child needs that. Yes. Because there is no blueprint. Like
there really isn't. I mean, and here's the thing is that, and I think this is, another reason why coaching is so important. Advisors, and clearly nothing wrong with advisors in the role that they serve, but 9 times out of 10, they're just telling you the curriculum that you need to follow in order to fulfill, whatever need, a major, minor, specialization, or otherwise. But, the point is that who's coaching you through the day to day? And that was my thing. I said, I felt like I needed to be a social butterfly and know all 18,000 students at my institution and not be, centered on what was going on, in my classes. Now, I was smart enough to at least go to class. So I wasn't that guy. I didn't go to class too, but when it came time for when class was over, it was time to play ball. It was time to do this. It was time to do, everything else but. And then by the time maybe 7 or 8 o'clock rolled around, okay, I think I'll get started on my homework. I'll do something for a couple of hours. Oh, there's something happening. Oh, let me go check and see. And, I'm only going to go for 30 minutes. I'm going to come back. Well, we know how that happens.
It's never just one beer. It's never one beer.
Never one beer, never one dance, never one, little study break. It's, now I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning. Now I was smart enough to get up to go to class. So at least I had an idea what was going on. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me anything about the book or about what the concept was or the definitions that I needed to know, I kind of did homework, but I clearly didn't study.
Yeah.
The book that I wrote basically, I think, gives you kind of a footprint and a thumbprint about how to go about that whole process. Because there is a real distinction between doing homework and studying. One's kind of a cumulative process of all the homework that you've done, so you can then put it from short-term memory to long-term memory and retrieve it when you need it. And the other just basically says that you did it so that you're ready to potentially talk about it the next day or whatever day that, class happens to be. So, be ready. And most students aren't, that's the bottom line. So this book is really written for the student who procrastinates, who didn't get it right, who is trying to find their way, and maybe this is a sink or swim semester or year for them.
I'm not
Or
gonna lie, I'm feeling very targeted right now.
I'm sorry. You shouldn't. You obviously got on the other side of this, so this is good. You can wear the T-shirt now, and know that you're clearly that. But
Yeah.
the other part of this is that if you're really doing well, and you don't just want to survive, you want to thrive. I mean, that's part of the reason why I named it the business way I did, Thriving Life Coaching, because I didn't want to see it from people to see this from a survival mode. Like I'll cut off an arm and I'll make it, but I'll leave something behind. I want everything to be intact, and that's the whole point with it. So the coaching that I do really with students really does give them, I think, about 4 or 5 things to really think about and consider. The first of which is really being an advocate for yourself. 9 times out of 10, you don't learn that in high school because Mr. Jones, Mr. Ryder, Mr. Better is there to, pat you on the side and take you from classroom A to teacher B to go get things taken care of.
Yeah.
And in college, it's like, hey, you're on your own doing your own thing. So you really have to see yourself as not just a student, because I know I did that too, but really see yourself from, as a client. I mean, that's what I tell students all the time. You're a client of me in my class as your professor. My job is to get you from point A to point B. And if you don't tell me what's right or wrong, then I can't fix it, and you can't. And that's going to be a ripple effect as to what happens, from that point on. So, being able to advocate for yourself and seeing yourself as a client and as a loyal customer called an alumni, right?
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. I think the next set of things that I would really kind of offer would be, you need to be, you need to, in that advocacy, you need to also be confident and know that what you're letting them know what you do or don't have, and no different than you would if you went to a burger joint and they said, hey, you put pickles on I didn't ask for pickles.
Yeah.
You just don't take it as kind of face value. You get what you really want to get out of it, have it your way.
Yeah.
Now you've got some things that you got to do on your end, but you can basically still get it, that as part of it. Students need to be competent. You're all this homework and study and books and classes and midterms and finals and all those kinds of things. You're supposed to be leaving knowing something more than you came in with. And then I think beyond that, I think much like for yourself, there's a level of curiosity that goes along with this as well, and being able to say, my dad was a banker or an investment banker, but that's not what I really want to do. What's my why? What gives me my why? What gives me my passion? What gives me my interest in whatever it is that I'm interested in? And how do I then, turn that into something that I can do?
Yeah.
Beyond that, there's 2 more. One is time, and we know how important that is.
I'm learning a new role right now at my day job. And having spoken with at least, I think I'm on to nearly 42 entrepreneurs and watching many entrepreneurs, I know how valuable time is. And being in the group training session, it's like, okay, I know this, can we move on? But the other people don't. So it's kind of like, I feel my time wasted, but at the same time, I can't do anything. This is the process. I have to accept the process. When I can get out of this day job and fully on my own, then my time is back to me. I realize time is money. Money comes and goes. Time is the only resource that is shortening every day of your life. So
exactly, you don't get it back. Bottom line, and that is so true. So actually, today, ironically enough, today was I think 2nd or 3rd day of a hybrid class that I'm teaching at the community college. And today we talked about time and how important it is or how it isn't. And to hear students talk about, I'm just going to go with the flow, or I procrastinate and it's okay. I'm like, I just put my head in my hand. I'm just like, okay, let me tell you the real deal now. And so we kind of went through it, and they're going to hopefully get it. But if not, so be it.
Now they get it now, or they're going to get it later on when they're like, I really wish I listened to Mr. Ryder back then.
Exactly. And then the final thing is just basically, your self-care. There's nothing to be, much like your time you don't get back, burning the candle at 6 ends when there's only 2 is, virtually impossible. And so you really got to, take the time to take care of yourself. This past year, as a matter of fact, for the first time, I took 2 weeks off. Usually I take a week off, or I take a couple of days. That's kind of built into the vacation itself. But I took 2 weeks off, and I, did, what I wanted to do or what I didn't want to do. I didn't have to do it. I was just, I was on my time. And the bottom line is that, that being bitten by that bug, it's now in me, and it's something that I'm going to continue to do. But if you don't take care of yourself, you really can't begin to even think about any, anything like school or otherwise, because, you take care of the basic needs, the higher needs get met. But if you don't take care of the basic needs, the higher needs are, you're never going to see them. So I try and kind of coach students in that model to kind of think about that and try and hit those things either through questions I ask or moments when there's a moment or an opportunity to be able to kind of interject that into the picture. They get it, they run with it, and they make it happen. So it's that too has been a pretty gratifying part of this puzzle as well, is that not just the book and not just kind of what I've learned in my time, but really being able to kind of infuse it into people and it influence them and being able to, do what they want to do, get what they want to get, and, make a life for themselves in a way that maybe they didn't expect and anticipate, but clearly, they are capable of it.
So when you talked about the self-care, the health, and like burning the candle at like multiple ends, last year, where like the end of 2019, I ended up starting my burnout, and I had to take 2 months off, and my doctor was like, here, let's try some medicine. Let's see if the medicine will help. I'm like, sure, you're the professional. I trust you. 2 months of the medicine didn't really help.
No.
And then I was like, I'm going to burn out. I don't want to burn out. So got 2 months off, and I made myself the promise, 2 months off, you're back at work. You'll be at 50%. You'll be able to do it, and you'll just take your time slow. Luckily, I got a therapist right off the bat. Like the first week I was off work, therapist, and did therapy. I'm still in therapy. I love it. It's helpful.
Yep.
And those 2 months off really just like, and now I'm like, I can't live with like 3 weeks off from work. No, I need those 2 months. Like that was amazing. Like not worrying about anything, just relax, right. Waking up when you want, going to bed when you want, doing what you want. So yes. My goal is to be able to have 2 months off, maybe not consecutive, but sure. Just whenever I want, like, oh, bye,
No, exactly. And it's funny. I'm kind of pacing myself this year to try and give myself at least 20 to 25 days off, play golf, get a massage, not do anything, lay in bed, not do anything, work on my business if I want to, sell a book if I want to, go to a book fair, go visit family, go visit friends.
Just do what you want and
not what I want to do.
Not anybody else. No responsibilities to anybody but yourself for your self-care.
But knowing that I've done so with in the context that I've done what I needed to do, because that was part of my incentive as well, is that when I was in school, if I wanted to go to a basketball game or a football game, and I knew I had homework I had to do, I did the homework before, or at least I started it. So I didn't feel that, that feeling. Monkey on your back, or those voices in your head saying, stay, have more fun. Like, no, you gotta go, and just hearing it back and forth.
Yeah, and trying to choose.
Yeah, the little man inside is always, is always there. So you just make sure you're hearing the right voice and doing the right thing in the process. But long and short, these are the kinds of lessons I try and impart to students that I work with, and organizations as well that are interested in someone else being the hard guy and saying to them the tough thing,
the tough love part, right, the tough love part
that they've been saying forever that they've not heard, but now they hear because it's from a different person. So I understand my role. I understand my lane.
There you go. You've taken your passion of teaching and knowledge sharing and because it started when you were going to the other schools. Like, it really started you going to other schools, promoting your school. Hey, kids, like, this is an awesome school. Like, here's all my stuff. Then you're like, well, I want to nurture these kids more. So it's still that education role. And you shifted, and then you shifted to actual teaching. And then you shifted now to alternative teaching in essence, but it's still teaching because you're helping these kids get on to the next level. You're helping these business owners take it to the next level, which is amazing how you're giving back your knowledge and it's coming back tenfold to you. So it really shows that, like, 1 cent here can really give you that $10 investment. So I really, it's amazing.
And there's a lot of that too, that, where I've done it, for free. There's a presentation I'm going to make, I think actually next week, to a group of women who are in a recovery facility from abuse, physical and mental abuse.
Amazing.
But looking at it from the standpoint of education, and so not just education from the standpoint of formal, going to college, which is clearly a possibility, but from the continuum of even learning something on YouTube, and how to do whatever it is that you're interested in doing. So I think we all have the ability to be lifelong learners, whether that means something formal, in a classroom or outside of that. But, if you're living right and doing right, I think you should learn something new, every day, and either something new or somebody new every day, and be able to take something from that experience. And so, those are the types of things that I do. I've given away a lot of books. Like, I'll talk to a parent and I'll see a kid there, at a book fair or an event that I'm at, and talking to the parent, and you can see and hear the concern, the passion, the wherewithal to kind of help their kid get to the next space. And I'll pull the kid aside and say, hey, you see your mom and dad here, really working with you with this. I said, listen, I'm gonna gift you this book. I could easily charge you for it, but I'm gonna gift you this book. I'm gonna sign it. I'm gonna put my phone number in. I want you to give me a call when you finish reading it. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you've learned from it. Tell me what you've gained from it. And so, those kinds of things, if they happen, sometimes all you need is a seed to this kind of plant, and fruition. Let it germinate in all the ways that it needs to grow and build and bear fruit. And hopefully, if I'm good fruit and they're not too far from the tree, or they're good fruit and they're not too far from the tree, we should be on to something.
Yeah, like that book, $24, they could have bought it, but you giving it to them, you're investing that $24 of that book in that child, in that person, so that they can end up growing and being even better. They may not be your client, but they'll be like, hey, I got this from Reginald. He's an amazing guy. Here, you should read it. And then that person reads it and then actually goes to you. And now that $24 investment has turned into a lifelong, investment, because this person is your a proponent of you, promoting you to other people that you don't even met. That ripple effect is huge.
Exactly. And I only charge $12 for my book.
There you go. Even better. It's a better investment. $12 investment.
$12 investment for a $25,000 cost.
Yeah, per year sometimes.
Exactly. So you spend $12 for $100,000 and you have something to show for it on the other end. I think that's a pretty good.
That's an amazing return on investment. That's an amazing
return on investment. Exactly. Yeah. And matter of fact, it's funny. I talk about that within the context of the book as well. It's like you're making this big investment in this, venture that you're about to go into. And we like I know when you get ready to go to school, that it's a, anywhere from a maybe 8 to 12 month time frame to do the, research on your school, to apply, to go through financial aid, to get scholarships, to get accepted, to get, to deposit and the whole nine. That's almost the easy part. We talk about, kind of the behind the scenes with,
just getting in
with your podcast. Yeah. Getting in is the easy part.
Yeah.
What do you do to sustain yourself to get there? And I think this book, in my mind, clearly answers that question for a lot of students anyway, or can, or could.
I believe it is. Like, just talking with you, and I was going to ask you, what are your top 3 tips? Well, you gave us your 4 amazing tips that people should listen to and take to course when they're moving on, when they're starting something new. in essence, and just for themselves. And so like that was just an amazing value. And if that value is in your book, just a portion of your book, then the $12 is vastly underpriced, because that is a lifelong, those are lifelong lessons that you're teaching people.
Exactly.
And so you're cutting their learning curve in half, even in thirds, because now they're learning it now and they don't have to go through that hard time.
And that's what I tell students now. It's like, if you're doing this with me now, and even if you don't necessarily, I'd love for you to stay with me through high school, if that's, when we, your point of entry, or at college, the same. But if you're doing these things and this is kind of your dress rehearsal, and you're able to do it in high school as a high school senior, as a high school junior, as a high school sophomore, as a high school freshman, how easy is it going to be by the time you get to your freshman year in college, when you see your roommate or your suite mate or people down the hall, or people that you are in your same major that are struggling and running from here, there, and everywhere, and you're just walking. I almost tell students, if you do this right and you listen to all the things I tell you, it's almost like you are, a duck on a pond. Clearly you're swimming, and doing everything you need to do without everybody seeing anything, but all you're leaving is a small wake.
Yeah. And you look if you look underneath, the duck's going like this, crazy, but on top he's just like the chillest dude in the world, just
exactly.
Like, how you doing? Yeah,
exactly. How you doing?
Yeah, you following my plan now. When you're in Egypt and university and that, or even in your business world, you'll have the template to fix everything so that you're getting everything quicker.
And the other part of this too is that, if you do this, if you're doing this in high school, you do it in college, then, again, think about the transition. I know for myself that I went through from going from college to a career, my first job or two, and think of all the dumb things you said and did and should have done or didn't do that, again, book doesn't necessarily directly address career, but I do talk about and divulge a little bit about what my career kind of looked like in the way of the process of getting to where I am right now. But if you don't make those same mistakes, you don't show up late for a meeting, you're supposed to be at, that you're supposed to be running, or that you're supposed to be in, that, your boss is looking at you, scornfully when you walk in 5 minutes late with your saunter as you take your drink.
Yeah,
cup of coffee.
We don't know what you're talking about. No one here has ever done that before.
You're gonna have to edit this and put the pixels up so nobody will see who we are.
Yeah, no one sees us.
Disguise the voice and everything, right?
Yeah.
But it's those kinds of things. If you can do these things now, and we plant that seed, then you're not going to do anything but be as consistent as you possibly can, because if nothing else, that's what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And that's how you want to project yourself, bottom line.
Yeah, with this book, you're investing in your future. You're investing in yourself to be a better you, become the next better version of you. This is just another layer. It's another layer of armor to protect you from hardships out there, because you can battle through it, because you already have the proven thing, because you've done it. And you've obviously had success in your clients, because people keep coming to you, and your book is a #1 bestseller. So it has to be a reason why it's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. So people can trust, okay, this can be really useful for me because people reviewed it. You have your testimonial. So now it's not like those old school snake salesmen that some people had to trust before, because it's like, oh, I guess we have to trust this person. What I love now is it's decentralized. The internet's decentralized everything and made everyone a level playing field. And you have the proof. You're like, look, I did it. I've done it for countless people, So it's amazing the value that people are now able to share. And you're sharing something that I know my generation and the generations coming up will need in space, because it wasn't here for us. Our blueprint wasn't here, and it's so unnerving.
Right. And clearly, I think in some respects, the world, so to speak, when I was in school, as an undergrad and even as a graduate school, there was a level of competition, but it was a relative level of competition. It was your school, it was your people in your major, it was people in your, maybe in your state, maybe in your region, maybe for the type of, vocation that you were looking to get into. you've already said it, we're global now. So
Yeah.
you're not just keep competing against, Joe Blow from California. It's now, whomever from, pick
India,
100, pick 100,
Russia.
178 different countries out in,
Yeah.
in the world. They are out there, and you now are competing, with, or not even, you're competing against them. And so what do you do to distinguish yourself and to give someone the level of discernment about who you are as an individual? Surely you can do that through an interview and all those types of things. Those things come through, but
The first thing is that paper.
First thing is that paper.
And
They're looking to see, not as much where you went, but what you did while you were there. And that's the other thing too. I think a lot of students get caught on the fact that, I'm going to go to a Big Ten school. Nothing to get Big Ten schools. I'm going to go to a Ivy League school, and there's nothing at Ivy League schools. I worked at one, and I know. But the bottom line is that when you're out there competing in all those realms, I'm a first generation Black male with 2 advanced degrees from state schools. I mean, by definition, I surely shouldn't be where I am or have done the things that I've done, but I put myself in the position to be in those places to do the things that I'm doing, and in doing so, offered a level of credibility and proof, kind of in the pudding that says that not only do I belong, but you should really be listening to me right now.
Yeah,
so, for what it's worth, I think you have to begin to kind of see. You have to begin to kind of see that lens and that prism being, illuminated in one respect or another, and just ultimately do what you can to make it happen from there. So I tell students all the time: be humble, be hungry, and hustle. And as long as you do those 3 things, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get what you need to get.
So true. I love that. And Reginald, we're coming up to the end. Unfortunately, 45 minutes flew by. One thing I love about this podcast, time just disappears and I get so much knowledge, but also time disappears. So I have to leave you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the 5 minutes for you to promote everything, where we can find you and all that live. So go ahead. The mic is yours.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Phil. I appreciate the opportunity. First and foremost, I'm glad you found me and we found each other. And who knows? Well, maybe this will be the first amongst many. So again, I'm Reginald Ryder. I'm founder and CEO of Thriving Life Coaching. It is a coaching business designed to help students get prepared academically for their academic pursuits and even life beyond that. I've written a book called Passing the Baton, and I'll show you at least what it looks like. It is available on Amazon, but if you want to get it from me, my website is reginaldryder.com, and I'm more than happy to sign it for you from the website. That is not from Amazon, but from the website. But if you're interested in coaching for your child or for yourself as a college student, high school student, middle school student, transitioning back as an adult learner, all the above, feel free to reach out to me. I typically offer a 15-minute consultation, free consultation, just to kind of give you a sense of who I am and what I'm about. You obviously have heard this from the podcast, but maybe a little more in-depth and a little more personal. And also to kind of see what your needs are. And then hopefully if they match and we meet somewhere in the middle, you'll be interested in pursuing me as a coach, academic readiness and life coach for yourself. Let's see. I'm in the process of working on a few projects right now, one of which includes, I think, a workbook, so you'll be able to kind of get your own. You'll hear my narrative kind of one-dimensional, but hopefully I'll give you something that you can then use in the second and third dimension for yourself, and as a plan moving forward. My background, I didn't really talk about that, but my background has been in higher education. I've worked at private schools, public schools, large institutions, Ivy League institutions, but all that to say that it's given me a lot of experience in being able to work with students and kind of meet them where they are and hopefully get them to that next level that I believe they're capable of. That's why I coach them. But that hopefully you see for yourself is, what you're capable of as well. So I try and maximize my full potential in what I know and what I can offer, so that you can match your full potential in being what you want to be.
That's awesome. So great. Give me a second here. Switch screens. Reginald, I want to thank you so much. I'm very happy that we were able to connect and have this amazing episode, because it taught me a lot. And actually, the self-care bit really hit home, because like this week has been really tough with the new job that as I explained before, and the podcast going on. So it reinforced the idea that it's okay just to take a day and not do anything. So I want to thank you very much for reinforcing that. That's what I took away from this.
Well, fair enough. For what it's worth, I'm a 6 day on, 1 day off. So I suggest you take that in.
I think I will. I think I'll start doing that starting now, 6 days on, 1 day off, so I can start healing, even better than before.
Exactly.
So links for everything for Reginald will be in the show notes down below, to his book, specifically on his website, because we want to really support him and get it to him. So it's going to be there. The Amazon will be there, because I may have an Amazon affiliate link to it. Who knows? But mainly, we want to go buy his book at his website so that we can invest in him and support his goals to be even a bigger, better. He'll sign it. That's money right there, because he's going up. And hey, he could be the next Stephen King. Who knows? Who knows what's coming? So remember to go to his website, buy it. And the biggest thing really is invest in yourself. Key point of pretty much this whole season has really been invest in yourself and invest in your future. If you're a high school kid, at least get the book, and then see if you want to hook up with Reginald and get the life coaching and the educational coaching to make sure you succeed.
Oh, one last thing I didn't say is the website itself is reginaldryder.com. I may have said it, but I'll say it again. reginaldryder.com.
There we go. Reginald, thank you again.
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
Have a great night, everyone.
I will. Have a good one.
I want to thank Reginald for being a guest on the show, and his knowledge and his journey were so much fun to learn about. I can promise you I've already bought his book because it has tools that I'm lacking. Also, it is for a few of the students in my life that I know. So I would really suggest getting his book for those students in your life, and for them to be ready to take on the world. Speaking of books, I actually have my book on podcasting, which is in its final stages to be launched, and I cannot wait to share it with you. It is by far the best book on podcasting, because I have used the exact same methods that I teach in the book to launch Lloyd Ross's successful podcast, Money Grows on Trees, which now stands at number 16 all time on the Australian how-to charts for Apple, as well as the ones that I do for my other clients that are currently, I can't speak about because of contract, but they'll be out there soon and you'll see it. But please, if you're interested in launching your podcast the right way, send me an email at book@philbetterinc.com. Again, that is book@philbetterinc.com, and I'll make sure to reserve a copy of it and send it to you when it's live. And remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit To get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.